Hello guys, welcome back. If you're interested in vocal technique, pick up my ebook called Becoming a Natural Singer, or if you want one-on-one help, book a lesson through my website or drop me an email. Links in the description. So, I've been out this morning with my sister's boys and helping them to learn to ride a bike, or ride bikes, should we say. Watching them fail, watching them fall, watching them learn in the right way, with the right type of process, without fear, without expectation, just exploring what happens when we do different things, what type of outcomes do we get when we do different things. And I drill this down with people a lot. I drill down this idea of look to children in terms of the learning process, because that's how you're going to get the better results as an adult. When we talk about not being fearful of making mistakes, when we talk about allowing for mistakes and giving ourselves room to fail, giving ourselves room to make mistakes, not beating ourselves up about it. It's all well and good to say it, but I think the point that people miss often is that there's a much deeper level to this idea of allowing ourselves to make mistakes. What we're really dealing with is we kind of have this emotional space that we give ourselves as grown-ups, this emotional space that we give ourselves to flex, to move, to explore within. And whenever we get close to the edges of that emotional space, i.e. we start thinking that things are going to go wrong, we get a fear response, a fight or flight response. There is an emotional reaction to being close to the edge of that comfort zone. Now, people have various amounts of comfort zone, of space, of emotional room to wiggle and make errors and explore. So when we talk about allowing ourselves to make mistakes, we've got to frame it in this way. We've got to start to understand or ask ourselves, where are my boundaries? What emotional boundaries have I set up? What emotional habits have I set up? And what emotional room am I giving myself to move around and make mistakes? Because when we talk about allowing ourselves more room, what we're really talking about is expanding that emotional comfort zone, making it bigger, giving ourselves more space. And from that context, you've got to start appreciating that it's not just saying, I've got to make mistakes. I've got to allow myself to make mistakes. That is a shallow interpretation of the problem we're dealing with. We have to deal with this emotional baggage that we face when we get to the boundaries of our emotional comfort zones, shall we say. It's not pleasant. It's not nice. Frankly, whenever we get to the edges, we feel emotionally uncomfortable. And this is the catch-22, is we want to feel comfortable as singers. We want to feel comfortable using our voices. But when we try and improve, in order to expand our comfort zones, in order to push those out and get more comfortable, we have to face discomfort in order to do that. So we end up in this situation where whether we want to remain in the same place as a singer or if we want to improve as a singer, both those choices involve pain. If we remain the same as a singer, we aren't dealing with this constant sense of pushing against where we feel uncomfortable, but we are uncomfortable in the sense that we're just not happy with our singing. Broadly, we're not very good at singing. We want to be better at singing. Yet when we try and improve, whilst we feel like we're getting better, we're then having to switch over to the day-to-day pain of pushing against these comfort zones, of dealing with the fact that we've got these emotional boundaries that we weren't necessarily even aware of at first. So the broad point I'm making here is there is a price to pay. Whether we improve as singers or we choose not to improve as singers, we're always paying some type of price. And the question comes down to which pain you're willing to tolerate more or less of, in a sense. i.e., if you're so reluctant to push against those comfort zones, you're going to have to deal with the pain of being an average singer. If you are find it super painful, that you're not improving, that you're not the singer that you want to be, then you will start to push against those comfort zones and deal with that pain. But my point is you can't fix it any other way. Every solution involves some amount of sacrifice and some amount of choice to face problems. It's just a question of which problems we want to face and which thing we value more. Do we want to avoid that short-term pain and not face pushing out those comfort zones, or do we want to avoid the long-term pain of not being a great singer, not being the singer that we want to be? And in the end, that is the choice that people that it boils down to, not just in singing, but in many other parts of life, is avoidance of pain. Most motivation for people comes from which pain they want to avoid the most. So just going back to this idea of these comfort zones, when I started exercising and pushing against these things, I realised very quickly, I am so uncomfortable when I do certain things with my voice. I'd go into a lesson with a coach and I'd come out and my armpits would be drenched. I would be covered in sweat. I would feel like I'd just been through an emotional washing machine. And I would wonder why. And when I look back now, what I realise is that I was facing those demons. I was facing this reality of having to deal with narrow, confined comfort zones, narrow, confined emotional space, and I was having to push against that to start opening it up again. And this is the thing that we transition into as adults. Children do not have this. When they use their voice, they use it without any sense of boundary. They just do. And as we become teenagers and adults, the social boundaries of speaking, i.e. you can't scream in people's faces, i.e. you can't wail and cry whenever you feel like it, these types of things, they get inputted into the voice. They start confining the voice via social boundaries. And if we're not singing all the time, we don't understand necessarily that the boundaries for singing are very separate to the boundaries for speaking day to day. So if we've only ever had the social boundaries, the day-to-day boundaries put in there, and we go to sing as adults, what have we got? We've got those narrow social, emotional boundaries where we can't make certain sounds, we can't do certain things because it's going to make us feel uncomfortable, it's going to make other people feel uncomfortable. I truly believe that this is the real blessing of learning to sing when you're younger, is it sets up two sets of emotional boundaries for the voice, or two sets of what is classified as acceptable for the voice. You've got the social day-to-day boundaries and you've got the singing boundaries. And if we learn this young, the mind accepts that completely. It's totally fine with it. But if we only learn one set of boundaries, the social day-to-day with the voice, and we never learn the singing boundaries, the mind believes that those are the only boundaries and that there isn't any others until we go to sing and we find we hit walls, we hit bridges, we hit issues. So guys, this is just a deep kind of dive into this trivial thing that people say. You've got to allow yourself to make mistakes. You've got to allow yourself to, to fall over every now and again. There's a much deeper context to this problem. And if you really delve into singing and you have to deal with any of this as an adult, you'll start to recognize some of the things I'm talking about here and really start to value them. And you'll start to wonder, why are no other coaches talking about this? Anyway, guys, hit me up in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Give this video a thumbs up and I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.